Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored Never Boring and the final installment in my HeroQuest restoration project. Today I am going to be repairing the box. And I have to say I have repaired a number of board game boxes in my life, but I have never tackled one as bad as this one. This box has been through a shredder. It really is in a bad way. But we will do what we can do with it. However, before we get started, let's just take a moment to revel in the glory of Les Edwards' cover art here. I would say this is without a doubt my favourite piece of board game art. There has never been a piece of art for a board game since that has captured my imagination like this image did. It is absolutely superb. And fortunately, the artwork is largely intact on this box. Most of the damage comes from blown corners and things like that, so the actual cover art itself is largely untouched, and that's a good thing. But in this video we are going to do a number of different repairs. All 8 corners are blown, that's all 4 corners of the lid and all 4 corners of the base. There is a lot of sellotape on this, there is a lot of scratch marks, ding marks, creases, buckles, rips, the works. But let's get started. First of all, you may notice the lid of the box is sitting a little bit high, and that is because I have a Felder insert in here to keep everything safe. But let's not worry about that for now. I will show you the Felder insert another time. For now, just look at the state of these corners. Look at these rips on the artwork. And where are we going to start? Well, the first thing to start with is the sellotape. We do not ever want tape on our boxes. And if there is tape on your boxes, you should try and remove it as soon as possible, because if it discolors, if it goes dry and crinkly in the sun over time, it can leave permanent yellowing on the box. But what you definitely don't want to do is just try to peel the tape straight off. You will rip the box. So we are going to tackle this tape by using a hairdryer. And the aim here is to gently heat the adhesive on the tape and gradually peel it back little by little. By doing this, by making the glue really tacky, you will peel it away from the board and you shouldn't leave any damage. And in fact, you shouldn't even leave any sticky residue, which is something that can also happen if you just peel tape off. But this is something to take gradually, do it slowly, a little bit at a time. You do not want to rush this and risk damaging the box. So here on the corner of the box we have a lot of tape. So you can see I'm heating it, very slowly peeling it back, and you can see there's an image underneath the tape, and that image is not being damaged as this tape comes off. If I had just tried to peel this off, there was a good chance I was going to lose some of that image. And I should point out you can use this technique on brand new games as well. Ravensburger in particular have taken to sealing their new games with little round sticker tapes rather than using shrink wrap, and a little bit of heat from a hairdryer will help you to remove those stickers without leaving any sticky adhesive behind on the box or potentially damaging the box. When you are taking the tape off the box, it is important to pull in a direction that isn't going to lift the image if you've already started to get some lifting. For example here, I don't want to be pulling away from the corner, I want to pull towards the corner. If I pull away from the corner, there's a good chance that even with the glue being heated up, a little bit more of the image will come. You can see here as I get to the very corner, I now have to stop and I will have to take the rest of the tape from the other direction. If I try to carry on peeling it around the corner, I am just going to rip the paper. So always pull in a direction where you are not lifting paper away from the board, but lifting it towards the board. And look at the state of this. You can see the front cover image is lifting straight off this corner. And trying to get that last bit of tape off is going to be a problem. But again, what we need to do is heat it from that side and pull towards the corner. If I try to pull away from that corner, I'm just going to lift the whole cover image off of the box. But eventually, I did manage to get all of the tape off of the box, and you can see here I now have a flat box because all 4 corners were blown. All 4 corners of the base part of the box were also blown. But this is what we have. This is all the tape removed, and we are ready to start actually doing some restoration work. And you can see here that there is a buckle in the side of the box, and that's the first thing that I'm going to try and deal with. This is a nice easy fix to start with. I'm going to spray some fabric freshener inside the box where it is buckled, just enough to dampen the surface. And then I have a sheet of greaseproof paper or parchment paper. I'm going to lay that across where I have sprayed. And then I'm going to put some serious weight on this to squash it flat. And I'm going to use my daughter's collection of Marvel and DC encyclopedias. And the weight of those books, in conjunction with the softening of the card from the spray, should result in a flattening of the card. I've used this approach on other things like the HeroQuest door frames, and it always works quite well. And here, let's see how it is done on the box. Not too bad at all. It's nice and flat now. Obviously there's still damage where that buckle occurred. You can see there is some creasing in the card. When you're repairing a box in this kind of condition, you are never going to get it looking perfect. You just have to do the best you can. But now we're looking at this corner where we removed all that tape and that image is lifting away. This is the next thing we need to resolve. Obviously, we want to preserve that artwork, so we're going to use some PVA glue. We're going to put a decent amount of that under the paper. And I'm just using a Citadel modelling tool here, but any spatula or flat object is fine. And I'm going to work the PVA as far as I can up under that paper. And then I'm going to make sure I've completely covered the exposed card. And once I've smoothed out the PVA, I'm just going to press it flat. And what you may notice is sometimes you have the paper ripping in different directions. For example, as I place this piece down, you can see on the left-hand side there is another section that is still exposed. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue there. And then I'm going to carefully lay that paper down as well. So I'm preserving as much of the original paper as possible. Once the glue is applied, it's time to get some greaseproof paper again. I'm going to lay that over the top, and then I'm going to flip it over. The greaseproof paper is going to make sure that the board doesn't stick to the table at all. And then once again, I'm going to apply some weight. This is obviously much easier to do with this box because all the corners are blown, so I can keep everything nice and flat. And then once that glue is completely dry, we can remove our weights. The greaseproof paper just comes off, it hasn't stuck at all. And here we have our finished corner. And again, with a box in this kind of condition, that's pretty much the best you're going to get with that kind of repair. But with all these scuffs and things all over the box, it looks a bit ugly. There is something we can do about that using either paint or a Sharpie permanent marker pen. I'm going to use a marker pen because it's easier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully apply marker pen on all of those scuffs. And what I'm doing is I'm dabbing the pen rather than scratching it backwards and forwards because I don't want to agitate or rough up the card any more than it already is. I don't want to cause additional damage, so I'm just blotting the ink on until I have good coverage. And yes, you will see a slight difference in the coloration between the original box art and the ink that you're applying, but it's still going to look a lot better than all those scuffs. And again, with a box in this kind of condition, this is a very time-consuming process, but it is worth it. I do avoid colouring in the massive open exposed areas, because that can actually look worse than leaving it, but for these little scuffs on the edges, and all the way around the corners, this does make things look a little bit neater and tidier. You can see there, it's already looking much better. But anyway, let's get to these corners. It's about time we dealt with the corners. So what I'm doing here is I'm just checking how the corner goes together to make sure that I'm going to assemble it in the correct way. And then I'm going to apply PVA glue. PVA glue is your friend with a project like this. You will use a lot of it. And I'm going to apply it to both edges. And then I'm just going to hold it together and wipe off any excess. Of course, the glue isn't going to hold like that, and I'm not going to stand there holding it with my hands for several hours while it sets. So we're going to brace it. So to do that, I'm going to use a metal corner bracket. 4 pieces of archive quality cardboard, and a couple of bulldog clips. You may also need some greaseproof paper. But the plan here is you put your right angle bracket inside the box, and you position it in such a way that when you lift up the sides you get a good fit. And then I'm going to get 2 pieces of archive quality card. That's basically any acid-free card that isn't going to leach and damage your board game card at all. And I'm going to place a piece on either side, and then I'm going to clip it with a bulldog clip. Of course, that card will prevent the bulldog clip from damaging the box. And once you've done one corner, you repeat the process for the other corner. And if it's a nice rip like this one, that's all you will need to do. However, if it's a really ugly rip and the corners don't go together very well, what you may need to do is, or what I have done in the past, is wrap a piece of greaseproof paper around the outside corner, and you pull that piece of greaseproof paper tight and clip it with the bulldog clips, and it basically helps to hold everything together. And as long as you're careful when you peel the greaseproof paper off afterwards, you shouldn't get any damage. But there we go, that's held in place, and it just needs to sit and dry. And after it is dry, this is what we have got. This isn't a finished, fully restored corner at this point. We will need to put some more PVA glue on yet. What we have done at the moment is we have just returned the box corner to its original shape. What you will probably need to do is apply some PVA on the inside of the corner for reinforcing, and you will certainly want to put some more PVA on the outside. But at least the corner is holding for now. But yes, the outside of the corner, we do need to apply some more PVA, and we're going to work that into the join, and we're also going to use this PVA to help to try and recover as much of that paper coating as possible. Where that paper coating had lifted away from the corners, we can use our tool and just gently tease it back into place, trying to keep as much of that original paper as possible covering the join, because the more original paper you have on your box, the better. But you can see even by doing that, the corner looks a little bit better than it did before. So that's our corner restored as much as it can be, but of course it still looks a little bit ugly, so this is where you get your paint or your marker pen out and you apply that to the corner, and that looks much better. We now have a nice, strong, sturdy corner, and as much as possible we have recovered all of those scratches, scrapes and bangs. From a distance, it doesn't look like a damaged box at all. Of course, up close you can see the variations in the colour, you can see the slightly ugly join where it's a little bit lumpy and bumpy, but that is a nice strong corner. And then you repeat that process. Here we have the bottom of the box, and you can see that I have done all 4 corners of the bottom of the box in the same way. And we had an additional problem with the bottom of the box. We had a rip on the side. Rips on the side of a box are a problem because you don't have anything to brace it against really, but you repair it in pretty much the same way. You apply your PVA glue along the join and you try and line it up as best you can. And I'm using my Citadel tool again just to work that PVA in underneath all of the card, trying to make sure there's good coverage. And then I've got to try and line it up as best I can. And again, I'm using the tool to smooth out the paper that's ripped away from the tear, to try and cover as much of the damage with the original materials as possible. And then I've got 2 sheets of greaseproof paper, one on either side. And then again we have 2 pieces of the archive quality card. This card was actually used as backing sheets for tradable cards, so I know that it's a good quality card. And then we use our bulldog clip to hold that in place. And once that's completely dry, it will hold, but it won't be a very strong hold because it didn't have anything to brace against. So what I've done is I've taken a little piece of that archive quality card and I've glued it on the reverse, just for extra reinforcement. And you can't really do this on a box lid, but because it's the base of the box and because there's going to be an insert going over the top of it, this is a good way of making sure it's strong. We're nearly done, but we do have a problem with this box because there are certain areas where the image has been ripped away by somebody removing tape in the past. There are 3 ways to deal with this sort of thing, and none of them are ideal. The first way is to print off replacement art and decoupage it over the top. I don't think this is a great option because trying to match up the print quality, the paper type, and gluing it in such a way that it doesn't obviously look like you've stuck something over the top of your box means it's a really difficult thing to pull off. Your second option is to get out your pens and paints and restore it yourself. You can only do this if you are really good at art and can do the matchup really well, and even then, with an area like this where it's text, you're going to have a lot of difficulty matching it up. The third option, the option I am going for, is to treat it like character and just leave it. It's an old box, it's going to have a couple of dings and knocks. This is just one of those that just has to stay. However, if you are going to just leave it and leave the card exposed like this, you do want to seal all those damaged areas because you don't want moisture getting into the card. And you can seal this kind of damage using an artist lacquer. I have gloss lacquer here. This is actually too shiny for this box, but you may be able to find a satin finish or a matte finish depending on what kind of box you're repairing. But failing all that, just good old PVA glue is a solution. Just paint it over the exposed card, leave it to set, and it will just prevent any moisture from getting inside the box and causing additional damage. And once you have done that, you're finished. Your box is repaired, and this is our final box. With all of those corners repaired, all of the tape removed, as much of the scuffing and scratching removed as possible, you can see there is still a corner where I didn't have the artistic ability to reproduce that corner art, so I've just left it, I've just sealed it with PVA glue. The same on that corner there, that unfortunate piece of tape that goes across the beautiful HeroQuest logo, and this really ugly corner here. But other than that, we have restored everything else. And considering the state the box was in originally, I don't think that's too bad. And here's the lid on the box just to show that it does all go together correctly and fits. Remember, my lid sits slightly high from the bottom of the box because there is a Felder insert in there. I am going to do a final video where I show you all of the complete contents of the game, and I'll show you the Felder insert at that time. But this is done. So that's what it looked like originally, with all of its dings and knocks and sellotape. And that's it now. Held together with love rather than tape. But that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.